today I'm just going to quickly run through some of the sounds that's included in Plucked Struck, which is my new single, and it's the first from a collaboration album with the artist Give Me Monaco. Because the track's got loads and loads of sounds from all around the world in it, I thought I'd isolate some of them and hopefully inspire people and maybe show them a little bit of the production process. So the actual track initially was inspired by the soundtrack to the TV series The White Lotus. The composer that wrote the score and did the main theme tune, Cristobal Tapia de Villa, pardon my Spanish, he's got a really amazing ability to create like haunting and interesting sounds. He did the music for the TV series Utopia. He's recently done the film Smile. So yeah, check out Cristobal Tapia de Villa and the TV series The White Lotus. It's really good. I think there's a second series coming out, but I digress. Anyway. So yeah, as I say, this track's got quite a lot of sounds within it, and I thought I'd just isolate them and see what people think. Starting with my signature sounds, which is always a found sound. In this instance, it's like a jungle to feed into the tropical theme. It's just a long recording that's just sat there underneath as a layer. And then what I'll do is I'll just work my way through some of these sounds, what the plugins are doing, what they sound like, and where they sit in the mix, starting with. So basically that's just a Stratocaster guitar recorded straight in to the sound card. And then I watched a tutorial where Tom Misch quickly records a beat for Fact or whoever it is that does them. And I just basically stole some of his ideas. So he uses this auto funk plugin, which is basically a wah-wah, and then you can just dial in the settings. Then I've gone to an amp. Again, Logic's a bit of reverb, just a bit of EQ. Then another EQ just to carve out some of the sounds. See, there's a lot of percussion stuff in this track, and there's a lot of shakers and stuff that consume this area here, so I've carved out a lot, taken out the bottom end obviously, and it just sits nice in the mix. Then there's a compressor just in there. I've basically modified one of the presets. It's a bass, but it doesn't really matter, does it? You just mess around until it sounds right. That's getting older, all the transients, and just smoothing it out a lot. What I tried to do with a lot of the percussive elements is tune them. So that was in E. The track is C minor, so I've tuned it up and down to help it sit in the mix. The actual rhythm of the clave is an old Ghanaian rhythm that I saw on a YouTube video. I just basically played it in live and then looped it up, EQ'd, sent it to a reverb, which is basically shared by most of the percussive elements. What you'll notice is some of my percussion elements don't have any reverb and they'll be really close, and then some will be like further in the mix with a bit more reverb. There's a shaker in there, some bongos, and then what we're doing is we're starting to build the main foundation of the rhythmic elements. Just fast forward on a little bit. Some hi-hats. Triangle, again, all just recorded in my studio, probably out of time, but it gives it that bit of character. Then you hear it a lot in Brazilian music. I think it's called a cuica, pardon my Portuguese. I think it's that. Some people call it a monkey drum. Anyway, the sound of this is very difficult to tune. I've played the melody in and then I've changed it back to audio, pitched it up and down, and then you end up with this like weird, haunting, primitive kind of sound. EQ again, just to carve out the right spaces so it sits in the track, and then there's a stereo delay, just so it moves around the stereo field. And if you listen to that with the rest of the stuff, if we're feeding back into that whole world percussion-y kind of sound, I found another tuned African instrument called an anklung. Now, what I've got here is two instances playing the same melody, but the slightly different settings. So, like, you've got like this psychoacoustic width. So, if you listen to these, again, just sat subtly in the mix. If we let me just drop the rest of this stuff in. Then we've got a tambourine, just gallop, kind of loose. Some hand claps, and the hand claps are running through a stock spring reverb that comes with Logic. It moves around a little bit, so it's a bit not entirely random, but it feels like it's moving around. The hand claps are recorded in my studio, so the real the snare, let me just, I thought there were an issue with that. The snare is just my snare, my studio snare. 2 seconds. And that's dry. It's not even EQ'd, to be fair. And that sits underneath the claps. And if we start to put that in with the rest of the stuff, so you can hear that tambourine and the gallop. Basically, that's the foundational percussion side of things. Now, I use a lot of white noise in my tracks, just layered underneath, just to help give stuff a bit of movement. So you've just got a melody playing there, but it's just literally white noise. And there's a stereo delay, just moving around the stereo field, you know. And then the filter will open up just as it goes into the next section, just to give it a bit of movement. And then countering that kind of rhythmic side that it's playing, you've got a flute. Just a contact plug-in. It's obviously a Chinese kind of sound. Going down the melodic side of things, then there's a couple of bits from my trusty old Juno 6. Holding it all together is the bass drum, which is it's a mixture of a layer of an acoustic bass drum with a sample from my old Joe Mox M bass, which is like an analog bass drum synth. It's really nice because you can shape it and highlight kind of like round sounds rather than big pounding techno kind of kicks. So you've got. So if I take out all this next section, this is now what we've got as a track. So I got it to that stage and thought, right, I'm kind of stuck now. I've hit a brick wall. So I sent it over to Lee, Give Me Monaco, who sent over loads of guitar takes on top. And then it was down to me then just to chop and arrange it into the final track. So he sent over this nice chord progression. It sounds really nice. Then layered underneath that, there's some guitar palm mutes and the actual bass line for the track, which then helps to drive the track along. So if I drop everything in now. Yeah, so you get a taste of that. So then we get to the track breakdown, and again, feeding into the tuned percussive stuff, what I've done is I've got three things practically playing the same melody. One's panned left, one's panned right, one down the middle, and then they're all just slightly bit of I'm using this free plugin from Isotope, which basically I'm predominantly using this warp setting, which helps to like just give the anything a bit of a wobble, so it sounds like that Boards of Canada kind of lo-fi tape kind of vibe. So if you listen to it with and without, and then on pan to the left hand side we've got a Balafon, which is like a West African tuned percussion instrument. You can hear it's quite flat with the tuning, but I kind of like how it... And then to the right hand side is a nice music box, then it kind of almost sounds like a children's theme tune or something. So that's the breakdown, and then Lee layered in some more guitars and stuff to help build before the final drop. Got this really nice bass. And that takes us to the final drop, where the main hook of the guitar comes in, and that's what shaped the track into what it is. And I'm really happy with the end product, basically, and can't wait to share with you more as this progresses into next year. Thanks for listening. Cheers.